What is going on? This is Alto, and today I want to give you an update on the repairs on my Right Flyer 40T. So it has been a little bit, and I've actually started working on and doing some of the repairs that were necessary. I actually have a lot done here, which is rather surprising. And I will say this to you, if you do have a balsa wood plane, maybe you picked one up from someone in a estate sale or something like that, that's the way I got this one, and you do crash it, don't just toss it. Try to do the repairs yourself. Yes, it's a learning process. You can do it though. So there was a ton of damage to the fuselage and a bunch of cracks. So it was cracked along the bottom. I've actually got all of that glued up, and it's nice and firm now. The covering on the windshield here, I had to actually take off because it split. So I glued that entire thing back together. I have everything here glued back together, the whole front end, as well as this piece, which I'll be mounting the ESC back to. Right now the ESC is just sitting in there, and I actually have my firewall firmly reinstalled. It looks like one of my little metal washers here. I'm going to have to glue that back down as well. I just noticed that. One of the things I am going to do, and you notice I haven't got my landing gear put back in, and the front nose landing gear has been taken off of my firewall, and that's because I'm going to make this guy a tricycle gear. I was really concerned about doing that, and I was a little worried about trying it myself, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. Basically, I'm going to move this landing gear just to the front leading edge of the wing, and then I'm going to 3D print what's necessary for my landing gear in the back. And now while we're back here, I have a couple of issues going on here. My ends of my wing here are a little loose, so I need to tighten those up. And then I had to cut out this piece so that I can replace it because it was punctured. So that's when I want to go ahead and take an X-Acto knife, trim that out. Everything here seems fine, the wood is fine, and so we don't have any worries there. And my hinges in the back here are okay. So I was able to get that trimmed out. All I'm going to do here is just reinforce this and cover it. That's going to be it for that. And I'm going to put I haven't put the battery tray back in yet. The mounts for the battery tray are actually in there. My intent is to lower this battery tray down so that I can fit a much larger battery in there. If I can fit a larger battery, some of the weight on the nose can come off, and I can possibly get my center of gravity, center balance back where it needs to be. That's that. Now the wing, everything seems to be pretty good for the most part, except we did have some damage. We had a puncture here, and after I trimmed this out, this was fine. Actually, all the wood here is fine. I trimmed this out, cut through the Right Flyer here, and then we have another spot. No, we don't have a spot, but what we have, see, there's another patch here from it being repaired before. This is where our single servo that controls our ailerons sits. I'm going to have to, this piece of wood is sitting right there. I was going to glue it back. I was going to reinforce it from the back and glue it back in, but that I don't think is going to work quite well for me. What I think I'm going to have to do is I'm going to trim this piece out here and trim this part out to the wood rib here. It is going to be wider than the fuselage body. So what I'm going to do after I trim that section out, and I did have to do some repairs to this rib, glue it back together so it's nice and firm, and I'm going to have to trim out where the servo is actually going to sit. And of course I have to replace my servo arm, which I have a replacement for. So I'm going to trim this out, make it nice and clean so that this servo sits right back there in the center very easily. Trim this straight across here all the way back to this rib, and then I'm going to put a piece of plywood in there and cut an opening for the servo to sit in, and then I'll remount this back in place in the correct orientation, by the way, and make sure my servo wire is coming out so that it can attach back to my receiver. But I do have one other thing that I'm gonna have to do. I'm not sure when this happened. I think these hinges must be pretty old. They're flat hinges, I'm going to put another hinge in on both sides, because either during the crash or at some point these hinges were damaged. So I'm going to have to replace those hinges as well, and I have the hinges already, and I have my nice pin vise that I'm going to be using to replace the hinge, as well as another tool to make sure I get everything lined up perfectly. That is the update. Thank you so much for coming by and hanging out with me, and I'd love to hear your comments and suggestions down in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. I know I talked a lot, but as a treat for hanging out with me, I'm going to share more of my last tutor flight with you, my FT tutor flight, and some different camera angles. I always use my Insta360 Go 2 to record in different ways on this plane, so I've got a couple extra little clips that I'll share as well. So thanks again. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Enjoy the flight clip, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. The wind did cut her around.
RF signal low.
Gotta bring her in.
Flight logged 13.
Okay. We'll come around and make a turn. She's flying well, and I'm a lander. I'm landing because I forgot to turn the camera on the bottom. Now the camera's on. So we're gonna do it again. Taking off.
Telemetry recovered. All we have to do is make that, yeah, we still have everything. So why is it? Why is it we lost power? Don't know why we lost power. We're not going to take any chances with it. We're going to end it for today on the tutor. Since she decided she wanted to come down, she did not seem to have enough power to stay in the air. So since she decided she wanted to come down, we're going to let her stay down today.